Have you ever stopped to think about why you're always angry? Why a simple notification on your phone can completely ruin your entire day? Why you feel this constant rage bubbling inside you, even when there's nothing actually wrong happening in your personal life? The answer will shock you, because the truth is that your anger isn't accidental. It's carefully cultivated, strategically fed, and systematically exploited by people who make billions of dollars from your emotional loss of control. Right now, as you watch this video, there's an entire industry working 24 hours a day to keep you in a constant state of emotional agitation. This industry doesn't want you to know it exists, doesn't want you to understand how it works, and definitely doesn't want you to discover how much money it makes, keeping you trapped in a vicious cycle of rage and indignation. But today, we're going to expose all of this. We're going to reveal the hidden mechanisms that have transformed your most primitive emotions into valuable commodities, traded on stock exchanges and sold to the highest bidder. The first thing you need to understand is that your attention is literally the most valuable product of the 21st century. It's not oil, it's not gold, it's not cryptocurrencies. It's your ability to focus on something for a few precious seconds. And there's a very specific scientific reason why anger is the most effective emotion for capturing and maintaining that attention. When you get angry, your brain releases a cascade of neurotransmitters, adrenaline, noradrenaline, dopamine, that create a state of hypervigilance. Your pupils dilate, your heart rate accelerates, and you become unable to look away from whatever provoked you. It's an evolutionary response that kept us alive when we faced predators in the savannah, but now it's being hijacked by algorithms designed to keep us glued to screens. Social media platforms discovered long ago that content generating anger and indignation has 5 times more engagement than any other type of content. A post that makes you furious gets more comments, more shares, more viewing time than any positive or neutral news. And this isn't coincidence. It's the result of years of A/B testing, behavioral data analysis, and algorithmic optimization. Every angry reaction you have is being carefully measured, categorized, and used to show you more of the same type of content that made you angry the first time. But here's what they don't want you to know. Behind this apparent casualness of social networks, there's a deliberate architecture of emotional manipulation. The algorithms aren't neutral. They're programmed with specific objectives, and the main objective was never to inform you, entertain you, or connect you with other people. The objective was always to keep you engaged for as long as possible, using any necessary method, including the systematic manipulation of your most vulnerable emotional states. When you get angry at a post, you're not just reacting to the content. You're being conditioned to associate that platform with emotional intensity, creating real chemical dependency in your brain. And it's not just social media. Traditional media discovered decades ago that if it bleeds, it leads. News programs structure their narratives around conflicts, crises, and controversies because they know exactly how this affects your nervous system. Every breaking news alert, every red warning flashing on screen, every dramatic background music is calibrated to keep you in a state of constant anxiety and alertness. They're not just reporting news, they're selling fear, anger, and indignation to advertisers who pay more for emotionally invested audiences. The advertising industry has evolved to become something much more sophisticated than simple product advertisements. Today, it operates as a consent manufacturing machine, using techniques developed by behavioral psychologists to exploit our deepest insecurities, fears, and desires. When you see an ad that irritates you, and we all see hundreds of them every day, this isn't targeting failure. It's precisely calibrated targeting to provoke an emotional response that makes you more susceptible to future messages from the same brand. The irritation you feel is the first step in a carefully designed conversion funnel. Let's talk about how this works in practice. Imagine you're browsing your feed and see a political post that makes you absolutely furious. You write an indignant comment, share it with your friends, maybe even make a video response. Throughout this entire process, you're generating immeasurably valuable data about your emotional triggers, your political beliefs, your online behavior patterns. This data is immediately processed by machine learning algorithms that create an increasingly detailed profile of your digital psyche. And then, in the following hours and days, you start receiving more similar content, more subtle provocations, more reasons to get angry. What makes this even more perverse is that this entire system operates completely outside your consciousness. You don't notice you're being manipulated because the manipulation is designed to seem organic, spontaneous, authentic. The post that made you furious seems to have been written by a real person expressing a genuine opinion. The article that provoked you seems to be legitimate journalism. The ad that irritated you seems to be just a company trying to sell a product. But behind each of these apparently innocent elements, there's complex machinery of behavioral analysis, psychographic segmentation, and emotional optimization. And here's the scariest part. The more you react with anger, the more valuable you become to the system. Users who demonstrate strong emotional reactivity are categorized as high-value targets in advertising systems. They pay more to reach you specifically because they know you're more likely to engage, more likely to share, more likely to convert. Your anger has literally become a commodity traded in digital markets, with prices that fluctuate based on the intensity and frequency of your emotional reactions. But there's something even more sinister happening here. This constant stimulation of your anger response isn't just keeping you engaged with digital content, it's literally rewiring your brain. Neuroplasticity is real, and when you repeatedly activate the same neural circuits associated with anger and indignation, you're strengthening those connections and making it easier for your brain to default to these emotional states. Over time, you become a more irritable person, more reactive, more easily provoked. Not because you chose to be this way, but because algorithms trained your nervous system to respond this way. The personal cost of this is devastating. People who spend more time consuming content designed to provoke anger report higher levels of anxiety, depression, and feelings of helplessness. Their relationships suffer because they become more argumentative and defensive. Their productivity plummets because their ability to concentrate gets fragmented by constant emotional agitation. Their physical health deteriorates because the chronic stress caused by constant anger elevates cortisol, inflames the immune system, and increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what can I do about this? How can I protect myself from something so pervasive and systematic? The first and most important thing is to recognize that your anger often isn't yours. When you feel that familiar wave of indignation rising up, pause for a second and ask yourself, where is this really coming from? Is this something that genuinely affects me in real life? Or am I reacting to something that was deliberately designed to provoke me? Most of the time, you'll discover it's the second option. Start paying attention to patterns. What types of content consistently make you angry? Which platforms? What times of day? You'll probably discover that your anger isn't random. It follows very specific patterns that correspond to the algorithms that are targeting you. Once you can see the patterns, you can begin to consciously interrupt them. Implement what I call positive friction in your digital life. Make it harder for yourself to impulsively consume provocative content. Remove notifications. Use apps that limit your time on specific platforms. Create physical barriers between you and your devices. The idea isn't to disconnect completely from the digital world, but to reclaim agency over how and when you engage with it. More importantly, start cultivating alternative sources of emotional stimulation. The reason manufactured anger is so effective is because many people are living emotionally impoverished lives. They don't have sufficient sources of genuine excitement, purpose, or connection, so their nervous system grabs onto whatever emotional intensity is available, even if it's negative. Find things that genuinely inspire you, challenge you, connect you with others in meaningful ways. Build a life rich enough that algorithm-generated outrage can't compete. The reality is that you're living in the middle of the greatest psychological experiment in human history. Billions of people are having their emotional responses systematically manipulated by technologies they don't understand, for purposes they're not aware of, with consequences we're only beginning to comprehend. But awareness is the first step toward liberation. Once you understand how the game works, You can choose not to play. Your anger is valuable. Your attention is precious. Your emotional energy is finite and sacred. Don't let them be extracted and monetized by systems that see you as nothing more than a data point in a profit optimization algorithm. You deserve better than a life lived in constant reactivity to manufactured provocations. You deserve the peace, clarity, and emotional sovereignty that comes from understanding and interrupting these cycles. If this video opened your eyes to something you hadn't considered before, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Have you noticed these patterns in your own life? What strategies have worked for you in managing your emotional responses to digital content? And if you want more content like this, deep dives into how modern systems shape our consciousness in ways we don't realize, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There's so much more we need to uncover together about how our minds are being shaped by the world we live in. Give it a like if this content was valuable to you, and let's continue this conversation in the comments below.